It's the same when you look back through any generation, any regime, any authoritarian, when certain people get to they climb to the top whenever things get oppressive. They become the managers, they become the people in charge, and they're the ones who start pushing other people down. And those are I keep talking about it recently, that Viktor Frankl is the Holocaust survivor, and he said, whether it's Nazi guards or fellow prisoners, there are decent people and indecent people in every group. And it seems like those indecent people climb to the top whenever there's an oppressive opportunity or to oppress others. And I think those of us who, I suppose I'm calling us decent people, which might seem a little bit unfair, and biased, but of course it is. But what I mean is people who don't have an urge to oppress others. I can't imagine any scenario under which I'd imagine you or I or most of the listeners would want to humiliate someone like that.
No, I know. I was thinking that because in my nursing, I'd been like a mentor to student nurses, and I was aware that I was almost too sort of lenient. I was always kind of overly caring and be like, "Are you okay?" Like checking in. Like the idea that you turn on someone who was in a more kind of lower down position than you. I could never do that. And I was because my instinct as someone that's interested in psychology is to kind of empathize and try to understand. And I was really struggling to do so. And I think particularly because they were themselves so-called like mental health professionals, I was just thinking, but this is so mad, because how can they not see what they are doing? They're supposed to be the experts of this stuff, and they've sort of become the thing that we're trying to kind of understand. It was like, it was it was so crazy. So and it went on and on. So I'd been seeing a patient as part of my clinical work, and I was doing really well throughout the whole thing. My kind of work with patients was great and fine, and I saw a patient for 18 months and we got to the end, and that's part of the training, and I did well. And then I started seeing another patient, and I'd got through all the lectures and seminars, and I was just about to finish the course and seeing this final patient. I should say I'd repeatedly told HR that this particular course lead who wrote the speech about me, that I didn't want contact with her, that I didn't want her to email me directly, and HR kept giving me reassurance that that she'd been told not to contact me, but she kept doing so. She kept putting she put messages on social media, like she just put strange messages with dots on it. She sent text messages to my WhatsApp with just with dots on it. Yeah,
she's a stalker.
It felt really invasive. She sent me these messages on WhatsApp with dots on it, and then like a minute later, I got these phone calls that when I answered, there's just somebody breathing down the line.
This is mad. I didn't expect this turn of events.
No, I know.
Wow.
She actually attempted to video call me late one Sunday evening, and I didn't answer.
Baby Reindeer.
Yeah, but this had happened after HR had told her not to contact me.
Wow.
So I was like, it's inappropriate anyway for like a professor to do, like someone at a university to do this, but given that you know that there's an issue and you know that HR have told you not to, I was like, this is now entering a new kind of realm. This has now gone from like a weird dogma to like this person's
obsession.
Yeah, it was so strange, and I was just like, what's going on? And then I started this new work with this patient, and part of psychotherapy training is that you see a supervisor who you talk through your work with your patient with. My supervisor went on leave, so I had to be given a new supervisor. And this course lead who'd sent me these messages wrote to me saying, "Oh, you're going to have one-to-one supervision with me." And I was like, okay, you're harassing me. I've made complaints about your harassment. I'm in the process of suing you because of your victimization and bullying of me. This probably isn't appropriate. So I wrote directly to the CEO of the Tavistock at that point, because I was just like, I don't trust any of the management. So the CEO at the time was Paul Jenkins, who was the head when all of this gender identity stuff was going on as well. And I said, look, this person's been harassing me. You know, I've made multiple complaints about her bullying of me. I'm pursuing a legal case against her. It would seem inappropriate for me to have one-to-one supervision with her. He got back to me quite quickly and said, yeah, it was an error on our part for you to have supervision with her, and we'll agree for you to have a different supervisor. She continued to send me Zoom links to have a supervision with her, and I was just like, I just didn't respond. I was like, okay, This is weird. Then I got pulled into a meeting with the director of the clinic, who put pressure on me to have supervision with the supervisor who has been bullying me, even though the CEO had said I shouldn't be having supervision with her. So I was telling this person that, look, I'm being harassed by her. They didn't care. they just said, well, you either have supervision with her or nothing. And I said, well, I'm being harassed and the CEO said that I shouldn't have supervision with her, so I'm not going to. That was then used against me as a reason as to why because I didn't seek supervision. They kept saying I wasn't a very good psychotherapist because I didn't attend her supervision sessions. And I was like, no, I've emailed this and I've messaged this. So, and then the final straw was what they used against me finally to push me off the course was towards the end of my psychotherapy with the first patient. There was a loud noise happening outside during one of my therapy sessions, and the patient asked if I could stop the noise. And I left the room briefly, and I knocked on the door where the noise was happening, and I asked if there was like a banging noise going on, and I just said, can you lower the noise? I didn't know what was going on. It turned out there was a child in there playing with like bricks, and they were throwing them.
Oh.
Yeah. So I said, can you lower the noise because of my patient? And then I went back into the room. They then said that in doing that, I'd acted unprofessionally and I'd traumatized the people in the room by knocking on the door. And I said, how could that conceivably be seen as trauma? And they said, well, it was a therapy session with a child and you traumatized them. And I said, well, I just knocked on the door and asked if the noise could be lowered, because I wasn't aware that this would be happening. And they said that you traumatized the people in the room because they could see you again, and the sight of you again could cause trauma, re-traumatize them. They were saying I wasn't allowed to be in the reception area of the clinic because the sight of my face could re-traumatize the people in the room. So they moved me into the basement where nobody could see me because I was so traumatizing. So I was seeing my patients in the basement and I wasn't allowed to go into the reception area. And then eventually what they said was that this was after 3 weeks after I knocked on the door, they decided that I was unsafe to see patients and they stopped all of my clinical work. They said that there would be an investigation. This was 2 years ago. They said that there would be an investigation to determine whether I was safe to see patients or not. To this day, that investigation never happened. And that's my story. That's my cancellation story.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's this Kafkaesque, strange thing where you're trying to go higher and higher to see where's there going to be a sane person in this place.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And you know what? Even after years of looking into this, and I'm sure you might be the same, and I'm sure people listening are as well, when you see someone who's like a high up professional of something and you think like, well, maybe this person will understand. And then you start talking to them and it's flabbergasting how little understanding they have, how little empathy for people with different ideas than theirs.